All right, folks, welcome back. We're excited. We got a guest with us. You saw the tail end of him logging on. What you don't know is that he was working on getting his microphone working, and we cut off from that. What you don't know was that was 2 days ago. So we have troubleshooted it. Mark and I just said, Mike again, damn it. Mark and we slept with the camera rolling while Marlon got his mic working. So we're excited. All seriousness, we're excited. Marlon, the IA guy, is here. Marlon had reached out to us through our gram, as you kids call it, the gram. And his stuff falls in line exactly what we have been, toting for years. So Marlon, thanks for coming. We're happy to have you on.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, brother. I really appreciate it. Nick, Mark, just a pleasure. It's always great to meet, all of us are in this for our voices to be heard. So, yeah, man, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk quite a bit. Mark and I have talked quite a bit about, our newer officers, particularly when they get out of the academy. They're your former LAPD. Thank you for your service. Luckily, you're not going through what's going on over there now, or maybe you want to be there. I don't know. I would. I'm always down for shooting rubber bullets, but it is what it is, we get a lot of younger, newer officers. I had, just when you messaged me, there was a young man that is going into the academy in Washington State. I won't say where. He had reached out to me and said, hey, what kind of advice can you give me going in? And I gave him a plethora of advice. The one in particular is the thing that you are involved in, which is knowing what your rights are when you go to IA, understanding that these folks are not your friends, that they will use every tactic under the sun to bring you into that blue line and say, hey, listen, we're all one big team here. Like, whatever you tell me, man, like, we're going to work through it, And I think you see it more than me and Mark see it, right?
Yes. What I will say is, Nick, one of the questions I do ask all my guests on the podcast is just that. When you were in the academy, did anyone from Internal Affairs come in and do a presentation, tell you about your duties and responsibilities, et cetera, et cetera? And out of 135 guests thus far, I think I've only had like maybe 2 or 3. I'll say, yeah.
Really?
Now here's the kicker. And this is including me. I think of it this way too. Even if you did come in and spend 2 hours telling me all about IA, it's probably going to go through one ear and out the other. Because, dude, all I want to do is just fucking graduate.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get our learning domains done, and I want to get to graduation day. And so, the other question that I pose also is, your impression of Internal Affairs when you came into the job, right, in Internal Affairs in the academy, compared to today, right, 2025. Has that impression changed? And if so, how, right? And the reason why I ask all these questions is because we can all agree, including your audience, and shout out to everybody who's, still trying to, get on the job and go to the academy. And I'm here for you in any capacity, is that Internal Affairs has had a negative stigma attached to it for decades. I'm talking probably going back to like maybe the 50s and the 60s, or even longer. Who knows? I can tell you 25, 26, well, it's been 26, 27 years ago when I was in the academy. Yeah, no one came in. LAPD doesn't do a good job. And that's not just LAPD. I've been teaching, and guess what? Here's the other kicker to all that. I teach a California post-certified course, 3-day course right now for Savage Training Group and Internal Affairs. And every time we have breaks, and all the students, which are mainly sergeants, some lieutenants, and we do get some command staff, and we pose all these questions before we even get into like, okay, look, let's try to define what misconduct is, even if you know the definition of misconduct. But now we're going to show you how to do an intake. We're going to show you how to investigate. And guess what? You're going to have to adjudicate this. And we're going to show you how to do that too. And so it's a very good way to start this conversation by saying that if you're in the academy, there is 2 Bibles that you have to know. The first one is your rights. Your Peace Officers Bill of Rights in the state of California, you got to know it. Now, it's boring, dry stuff, but you have to know your rights. And of course, we can all agree that the main Bible is your use of force. If you don't know your use of force policy, you know what? You just stop what you're doing.
You shouldn't be out there.
Because I'm about to ruin, right? You just need the image and the style that you used to. Of course, you don't know. I don't know if you know that song by Humpty. But anyways.
Oh, I do. Mark doesn't.
Right. Stop what you're doing. And you know what? Read it every single day. And one of the most frustrating things about our culture is that we have that check the box or death by PowerPoint. We do. You know what? We're better than that. Yeah. Let's get better and really educate ourselves. And we don't. So, thanks for asking that. And the young ones, hey, man, make sure you get a hold of your Peace Officers Bill of Rights and, of course, your use of force policy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, in your opinion, you see it more than we do. Are you seeing IA across the country getting better or worse with reputation and tactics and way that they're handling internal investigations?
Ever since I started consulting and being hired as an expert for the last 6 months or so, I'm going to go out and say it's getting worse.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I'm really going to say that it's real bad because you don't attend, our course. Shout out to Savage Training Group. And I say that because, you know what, Nick, that's a very, very interesting question because I can't really say yes because an investigator in internal affairs requires a lot of integrity. It requires a lot of, experience, if you will, right? And I don't think we do that.
Mm-hmm.
We have small agencies, medium agencies, and large agencies. So if you're a small agency, normally, if you have an IA and it's serious allegations of misconduct, they're probably going to outsource it to some law firm or whatever. And then now you got an attorney thinking that they know how to do an IA, right? If you're a medium agency, you're probably going to
bad to worse.
Yeah, exactly. Well, case in point, we were talking before we were recording about, I just got done testifying at a Civil Service Commission board for a young officer who got fired on a dishonesty allegation. But anyways, the medium size agency, you're probably going to grab a sergeant. Now, if he or she actually attended a sergeant course, okay, great. But did you learn anything? What did you get out of 3 days, 2 days, or whatever long that IA course? Did you actually learn how to investigate? Did they give you pros and cons? Did they give you do's and don'ts? And we don't know that. I can probably tell you that you're either going to be voluntold to go into that unit, or you're thinking, you know what? Oh, I'm a sergeant. It's a feather in my cap. It's going to help me promote, to lieutenant. And so the question is, well, it's kind of self-serving on your part. Do you really know how to investigate a fellow officer, a colleague of yours, right?
Right.
And then last but not least, the large agency, same thing. You can go to an internal affairs school, and again, what did you actually learn? And I think experience is what's lacking in this particular police function. Because guess what? Not only do we not want to go to IA, probably no any different than I did. I thought the same way too. Hey, it's like a promotion, or does someone really think when they're young in their career that, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to go to internal affairs. Some people probably say, you know what? I want to go to IA to learn. And I'm here to tell you that my 5 years in internal affairs with the Los Angeles Police Department, it was a completely different lens. And bro, I learned so much about, police functions in general, what to do and what not to do. So I think it's not getting any better.
I think Yeah, I think the premise for IA is important. Like, I think that the need is there. I do. I think that the work product that IA outputs needs to be reviewed independently to eliminate bias and retaliation. And I can tell you it happens, and you know this happens, but the proof is in the two people that are in this interview right now, which is if my investigation was handed off to a third party or the state police and they reviewed this, they would turn around and go, this is bullshit. Like, why? And I have to touch on another thing. My ADHD is kicking in. The person who
so is mine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we're going to be all over the place with this today. The person who you assisted with the trial.
Yes.
It brought chills down my back. And it's a term that I can't stand that is used as the coup de grace to terminate officers, which is untruthfulness. Mark has heard this a million times from me because it was one of my charges that ultimately pushed me out of the agency as untruthfulness. It's not untruthfulness. It's the truth you don't want. Like, it's not the truth that you want. So because it doesn't conform to your ideology or it doesn't conform to your investigation, I'm being untruthful. That's not, that is a bullshit charge. Like,
correct.
Charging somebody with untruthfulness is basically you have concluded the entire investigation and you go, fuck, we got nothing. You know what? I think he was being untruthful. Fuck it.
Yes.
That's terminating an offense. And it's so arbitrary. It's so
self-serving.
It irks. Like, I say this all the time. There were many, many things during my law enforcement career that I could have been terminated for. Going too fast, pursuits that were not authorized, cruiser accidents that were my fault. Shit, you can get me on those any day. But there's one thing that was definitely not true, which is the untruthful part. That's the part that for me took me multiple years to get over, which was, it was okay during major trials for me to testify. Like, you trusted my version of events, but it's this particular event, untruthfulness, like that officer that you assisted, I'm very happy to hear that they won because a lot of times that's not the case. A lot of times during arbitration and during civil cases to get their jobs back, judges or arbitrators are like, well, it's subjective. Untruthfulness is it's so subjective. Your person, was it that cut and dry?
No. So let me kind of flush all this out for you when it comes to exactly the killer of them all, right? You lie, you die, quote unquote, is what we say, right? And so let me just back up and give you a trip down memory lane. So in the LAPD and internal affairs, there's a unit called the advocate section, and your sole job in IA is to be a prosecuting attorney. You're taking on that role. So if the chief of police pretty much says, hey, these allegations are very, very serious, that I am going to send you to this hearing, this border rights hearing. It's your version of your arbitration or a civil service appeal. It's the same thing. We call it a border rights hearing. It's a 3-panel member. However, I'm directing you to go to this hearing, but I'm recommending removal, right? But your fate pretty much lies on those 3-panel members, and it's like a civil trial. You do you plead. Obviously, for the most part, you're going to plead not guilty. You're going to do opening arguments. You put your case in chief. You bring in witnesses to testify. You introduce evidence for them to examine and analyze, and then you rest. The defense puts on their case, and then they rest. You do closing arguments, and voila! Now they're going to deliberate to pretty much find you guilty or not guilty, right, for findings. Now, if you get one allegation guilty, if you get one guilty finding, then you move on to the penalty phase. And in the penalty phase, you have package review, character witnesses, and they say, okay, we're done. Now we're going to deliberate for penalty. So I probably prepared for 40 of those in close to 4 years. And I tried and put on about 30. Now, out of the 30, 5 of those, and again, the majority of those 30 hearings that I put on had a false statement allegation. And I got to tell you, man, five were actually found guilty and they were removed. We can all agree we don't want bad apples.
Oh, totally.
Oh yeah,
at
absolutely.
all in the department. And rightfully they deserve to be fired. But the main question has always been when I retired was like, you know what, Marlon? What happened to those other 25? Like, why are we even here? You know how many times, Nick, Mark, that when we concluded and I'm cleaning up, getting all my paperwork, and I had the board members come up to me, and back then, traditionally, it was 2 command staff officers and a civilian say, hey, Marlon, why didn't anybody settle this? Like, why are we even here? We just wasted 3 or 4 days for, time away from my command. I could have been doing some really serious stuff, and someone could have made a decision at the divisional level. The captain could have just, I don't know, give him a 2-day suspension, whatever, right? And I've heard that countless times, and then I started realizing that it's the quality, right? What I consider a lot of them are half-baked investigations. And so you end up being in this circle, in this machine that you feel as though that it's fine-tuned. And I'm here to tell you, it's afforded me so much success, but does it need fine-tuning? Yes. And so now multiply that times, 1,000 or plus. And here in the state of California, no one has those checks and balances, right?
Yeah.
Now, lately, I've been hired for, which is my bread and butter, dishonesty, untruthfulness. I call it false statements. Big difference. And we teach this. There's a big difference between a false statement and a misleading statement. There's this culture in my beloved LAPD where they call it false and misleading, false and misleading. It's a false and misleading. No, it's not. It's either a false statement or it's a misleading statement. And guess what? LAPD is the only agency thus far, because I've been doing this for quite some time and I haven't gotten a phone call yet, not only in the state of California, but probably throughout the nation, that actually has a definition, like a true definition of what a false statement is and what a misleading statement is. Now, so does California Post, right? They have a definition of dishonesty. So now you're able to kind of have an examination and analysis. But now I'm going to take it home and hit this home run with exactly what you said, Nick. The majority of accused employees, when they get served, skellied is what we call it here in California, they get charged with a dishonesty, and you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, how the hell did this happen? I just had my compelled interview 6 months ago, and now at the 364th day, you're going to tack on a dishonesty, and so that's where we're doing a disservice. That's where the command staff is very irresponsible, and it's very, very biased. And that's why you hire me, to let them know that that's not the right way to do it. That's not the practice. Certainly isn't the best practice. And more than anything, let's get a timeline going. Like, how did this all go down? In other words, you turned it in 5-6 months ago, and then you get served at the 11th hour, and you, chief, you just arbitrarily said, you know what, I think you're lying. Well, hold on a second. If we're going to be accusing someone of lying, think about that. Preponderance is 51%, aka more likely than not.
Yeah.
Kind of. Well, in my experience, and I just got done testifying in front of a civil service commission, and they were all taking notes. I felt like I was educating all these 7 members and telling them that, look, where I was letting them know, like, hold on a second. We understand it's 51%. We understand that it's more likely than not. But if we're going to be accusing someone of lying, you better have a mountain of evidence. You better crank that up to like 90%.
Yeah.
If we're going to be held at a higher standard, guess what? You, chief, you need to hold yourself at a higher standard to ensure that if we're going to be calling a cop a liar, because we all know the minute that allegation is adjudicated as sustained, their whole career, it's a career-ending allegation. Yep. So why don't we all take some time and really think, analyze, and examine exactly what we're doing here? And guess what, Nick? A lot of agencies don't do that, but I do.
Well, it's a career ender for the officer, but what's
Correct.
ironic is police chiefs. It's not a career ender. It's time.
Isn't it a prerequisite to get fired from your former agency?
Yeah, and be passed around like a peace pipe.
Yeah,
like police chiefs are like, you know, they're disposable tampons. Like they're just, you know, you get. I'm sorry, you know, like you get terminated or you get forced out as a police chief somewhere. You find them at another agency 6 months later.
Yep.
Or a year
Pick up stakes.
They don't have the same kind of they don't have the same kind of I'm trying to think of the word
baggage,
right.
There's nobody doing thorough background investigations on these guys.
The more agencies that you're with as a chief, the more appealing you are. But if you, Marlon, you go apply at Chicago PD, well, maybe not. You just need a pulse for that. But like a small town in Illinois, and they look at your resume and they go, oh, "You've been with 12 departments in 15 years."
Yeah.
Yeah. But as a police chief, they're like, "Oh my god."
Look at all these acronyms,
like Starfish. Nah, you know, like they love that shit, man. And I'll say this too: is I think a lot of these chiefs have infiltrated law enforcement that are anti-police, where they use IA as an extension weapon to weaponize and remove officers, and their ability to earn in the future. That is something that Mark and I have seen over the last 3-4 years, which is they no longer use II just to get you out of the department.
Correct.
They use it to affect your ability to earn in the future. Because you just said it, which is once you get found guilty of untruthfulness, you're never wearing a gun badge again.
Correct.
Not unless you get a hookup. Not unless somebody that you know is a commander and they're willing to give you a second chance.
Yep.
You're certainly not working in the federal government. Like you're not working in the federal law enforcement division at all. And we see that with II, which is that, you know, these investigations, they're one-sided. They don't have the preponderance of evidence that you're talking about. You know, you have a lot of IA folks. I was in a medium-sized department, so, you know, there were sergeants that had no history of doing any investigating or anything. They'd go up to II, and it was like a fucking circle jerk. Yeah. You know, it was like, you know, the power trip was immense. Oh,
I can only imagine.
It's the worst, man. Like, so when I saw you come through, like through the Graham, I was like, this falls right in line because, you know, we have a lot of young officers. Take aside the 75% of the new officers that are coming in that are TikTok cops. The 25% that are coming in, one, I question why, you know, with everything that's going on. But they're coming in very, very naive. They're coming in thinking that, you know, if you get called up to II, whether you're a witness or a suspect, that, and let's touch the witness part for a second.
Yes.
You need to look at what your rights are as a witness just as much as you do as the person who's being investigated. Because a witness interview can quickly turn into Miranda, very quickly. In IA, because now you've witnessed something and you didn't stop it, so you're an accomplice to it. Like, you need to know what your rights are. I luckily, in my interview, and I think Mark with his as well, I know, I went into that. I was the vice president of the union, so I had a very good understanding of what my rights were. And if anybody that can hear the sound of my voice, however many thousand you are, if you walk into II and they read you Miranda, this is like the 50,000th time me and Mark have said this. Stop talking. Don't forego your rights for a fucking job. Like that's immediate. That's an immediate stop. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Well, the short answer is I 100% agree the long answer is going back to the witness. We have a saying here: today's witness is tomorrow's suspect.
That's so true. That's so
Which
funny.
sometimes it's actually true. I've experienced that. That's like a mic drop, bro. You know. What I will say is, when we teach, these sergeants are ready to begin their IA tour, or they've been there for quite a bit. You know, the students in the class. We talk about consistency, right? Mm-hmm. You want to be consistent when you are you're interviewing, you're doing your compelled interview with the accused or a witness. You want to be consistent. And some require Miranda and some don't. Mm-hmm. Well, we challenged the students like, well, hold on a second. And I know this is going to sound so contradicting, but do you really need to be like consistent? And they're like, well, what do you mean? Well, fucking A, dude, if you are interviewing someone for a seatbelt violation, or here's a good one, I didn't have my taser on my duty belt. Like, you're supposed to have it. That's like policy, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And whatever, you're in the equipment room, hot call comes out. Next, you know, it's an officer needs help call, and you just run to your fucking car and you put your you throw your taser in your war bag, and you're fucking going to help out your fellow officer, and you get dinged for not having your taser in your duty belt. Just as an example, or your name tag. Here's a better one. You didn't have a name tag on, right? And here you are, a 2-year cop. Listen up, you young ones. And all of a sudden you sit down and you're going to, hey, thanks for showing up. Today's date is, June 21st. Time now is 8:35 a.m. And I'm the primary investigator, Ronald Marachi. My partner, Mark, is the second investigator. And the allegations are going to be policy violation for not having a taser. And we're going to go ahead and read your Miranda rights. You understand? And you're like, hold on a second. You're scared shit. You're like, wait a minute. I just read Miranda to a suspect that I arrested 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Right. So my point is that don't be so stuck on consistency. Be flexible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If it's just a policy violation, or like, you fail to do something that's policy related, you know what? Don't do it. Now, if it's, off-duty behavior, and I will tell you, and listen up, young ones, the department, this is not just LAPD, any police department, I don't care how great morale is, how good culture is or bad, right? Either or if the chief is competent or incompetent. But what I will say from experience is that your off-duty behavior will be scrutinized with such a tight, narrow scope than what you will do on duty. That is guaranteed, probably across the nation. Yep. Doesn't matter. DUIs,
I agree
bar
with that.
fights, domestic 100%. Violence, just things that you do off duty are really, really you're going to go through the ringer, bro. And so my point is that as an investigator, just be flexible, and you shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to Mirandize anybody unless it's like some real serious allegations that are being levied against you.
Yeah, you get over into the criminal code. Yeah, I agree with Miranda, but I also agree that I really liked, I'm originally from Ohio, and that was where I was a supervisor at. I really like what you said is, has anyone gone into your academy? Because I'm an academy instructor. I teach at our basic academy here, and I'm also an advanced instructor as well. Did anyone come into your academy and tell you what's happening there? And I'm writing this down as you're saying. I'm thinking, man, that's gold.
It is.
So to dovetail what you're seeing there, I learned this through trial by fire, right? So they want to either give you, and we have a non-custodial warning that we give in Ohio, and then Miranda. And I've told all my people, look, if you get either one of those two, you need a lawyer. And remember, when you're going into IA, it's not there because we're buddies. This may be a dude that you were on his squad, 2 years ago, and you hung out and had fun together. Now he's on the other side of the table, and you need to understand where you're at. What conduct got you here?
Yeah.
You know, and
Go ahead,
if
sir.
I may add also, well, a couple of things. One, Mark, we'll be seeing each other soon. I think we're going to Ohio to go teach in October. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Yes.
let's get together. I don't know how far. I'll
Absolutely.
let you know what police department's hosting. But
Okay.
you know what would even be better too, also that I thought about lately? Why don't you have someone come in the academy that got fired?
Oh, yes. Keep talking.
Because stories, it's what sells. I've learned this. You know this. We're all
Mhm.
podcasters. If you
Yeah.
tell stories, it's not just telling a war story. It's actually getting that war story in a way that is going to impact, you know, the audience. And bro, can you imagine if someone that says, you know what, I was sitting in your seat 2 years ago
Mhm.
and I decided to go out with my buddies, we're hanging out, drinking. Next, you know, I get a DUI and I fucking crashed into just this innocent family. And you know what?
It's a good
I got
deterrent.
fired.
Yeah.
You know, something like that. Or, you know what? We had this radio call, this call for service, and we went in there and, this lady had a hot pot of water and decided to throw it at me. And and next thing you know, I killed her and I got charged with first-degree murder, you know?
Yeah. I think
so.
I think the person that needs to go to those academies is that
Yep.
what's that chick?
Our Tennessee friend.
Hey, Nick, where are you at? You're in Illinois?
Nah, I'm in Florida.
Oh, you're in Florida. You're hanging out with all my other dudes over there.
Floridians. We
Yes.
are Floridians.
Living the no state tax life, man.
Yes. Yes.
I moved.
Yeah, a lot.
I moved from Virginia down to here because
Okay.
you know, aside from that's where my old agency was, and it just got to the point. I just moved down here a couple months ago, and it got to the point where I was like, that was 50% of my mental health, like my mental health issues, because every time I drove through the city that I was a police officer for almost 20 years, you know, I was like, this is doing nothing for me. Like going to stores and running into former coworkers, running into the one of the people that interviewed me in the box. Like, it's just not good for you. You know, it's not good.
You know what, Nick? Thank you for sharing that. And I'm a true believer, and I've been so blessed and humbled by everyone who's come in through the podcast and shared their stories.
Yeah.
Where we are now, I guess I'm making an impact, right? The IA Police podcast is making an impact on mental wellness, because when we came on the job, we didn't think that discipline or disciplinary matters or the process, right? There's that saying, and I actually have a T-shirt where I'm starting to wear it, and one of my guests said it best. He said, Marlon, you know what? The punishment's not the penalty. The punishment is the process.
Yeah.
And so,
yes.
And so we start thinking about, how we're treated. You're kept in the dark. In your darkest moments, no one's really there for you. And when we think about mental wellness, we think about suicidal tendencies, ideations. We think about losing your partner that was killed in the line of duty, you know, partners that, you know, were hooked on drugs, you know, losing a loved one, you know, popping pills, if you will, you know, from an injury, but, you know, and alcohol, whatever. But what we don't think about is discipline. We don't think about when you're facing, you know, pretty much a career ending, you know, type of incident where, and here's the deal, you're innocent. You know, I have to go through all this to prove my innocence. And come to think about it, the podcast also, just like yours, right? All of our podcasts, we are given that social platform to clear yourself. I mean, where do you go after it's all been said and done? Kind of like this client of mine, right? I got hired I was hired as an expert to testify in his civil service commission hearing, and he won, right? They exonerated him from the dishonesty. Now he's got to go back to work. But where does he get to tell his story? Where does he go to say, you know what, the department got this wrong? And for the last year, it's been the most stressful time in my life, the darkest moments, and I was in the island all by myself.
And he's not even allowed to. Like, once you go back to work, see, Mark and I are way more dangerous outside of law enforcement.
Me too.
All of us are.
We all are.
Yes.
like my I mean, I say it a million times, and Mark says it too, which is if you would have just if you would have been upfront with me and said, hey, listen, I don't like the fact that you have a podcast while you're working, while you're a cop, this isn't the place for you if you want to do that. Yeah, I would have been pretty pissed. I would have walked away. I would have stomped my feet. I would have went to another agency, but I wouldn't have been venomous. Like I wouldn't be as venomous as I am, or how vocal I am about how the profession over the last 20 years is just, something that I don't want my kids going to do. Like I am adamant that this is not in the current state that law enforcement is right now. This is not the place to be right now. It's a tough environment, not only from outside, from the civilians out there and, riots and all that other stuff. That's separate. The admin betrayal is far worse.
Oh yeah.
Far worse, especially if you're a true blue. Like I had Mark, same way. Every T-shirt, went to every event, we're in honor guard, did all the things, went to all the events, was on, SWAT, doing all this stuff, all the call outs, all the sacrifices.
Yeah.
And then when that ends, it's like a relationship. It's like it's like being with somebody for 20 years and that ends. Sometimes it's different. And then there's the other part, which is like, okay, well, now when that disappears, what people don't realize is all of your friends disappear too, because you surrounded yourself by this blue line where you have no civilian friends. So like the guy that goes back to work that you're talking about, he's enemy number one. Like people are going to distance themselves from him because he's hot. He's fought the system, and everybody knows it's an invisible target on your back. All it takes is not wearing that name tag one time, not having a taser on you one time, getting into a questionable cruiser accident, or that one citizen complaint that involves race. It's like, now we fucking got you. And if you're not in this profession, I'm in the corporate world now. When I tell these stories to my corporate friends now, they're like, that's shit that you only see in movies. And I'm like, it's not in the movies.
Yeah.
That shit happens every fucking day. Like it's every fucking day. I wasn't worried about the gangbanger. I could do a subject stop with 6 gangbangers in the hood. That didn't bother me.
Yep.
It was when I got back to the castle. That's when I I'm like, at least the gangbanger's going to shiv you in the gut. Like,
right.
Lieutenant Captain, whatever gold prick there is, they're going to shiv you in the back and they're going to twist it. That's the worst part about our function.
Yeah.
I think IA has gets a bad reputation and a bad rap because they're an extension of the chief.
Yes.
They will only be the way that they are at the direction of the chief. And if you look at really good departments where you have a solid chief and morale is really high, typically, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, typically your IA falls in line with that ideology that the chief has, which is if you can handle things at the street level as a sergeant, you don't have a name tag on as a sergeant, as a former sergeant, and you as a former sergeant, you as a former sergeant. That shit that you handle out in the street, you turn around and you go, hey, Mark, what the fuck, man? Go back to headquarters, in your locker, go. Now, the second time, we're going to have the discussion in the office.
Correct.
The third time, that's when you blue team that shit. That's when you turn around, you document it. It goes up to II, and it's like, hey, I've already counseled him X amount of times.
Correct.
You don't need to go from 0 to 100 for God's sake. Like,
it gets personal, bro. You know what? I don't like Nick. I don't like Nick, so therefore, you know what? Just fucking jam him. 100%.
And it happens, like it happens all the time, which is there's favoritism, like any other profession. There's favoritism. Like what I got 100%. Investigated for, what Mark got investigated for. If it was one of the good old boys or one of the folks that's a fucking golden child, it would be like, hey, listen,
that guy would never even made it in.
Ah, man, no. But you know what? You spoke about something before, which is your podcast and this podcast, that when we started in 2019, there were a lot of cop podcasts. The majority of the podcasts were, about the new Streamlight flashlight, the new ASP handcuffs, the new this, they were more equipment driven. They weren't really talking about poor law enforcement leadership. They weren't talking about, suicide amongst cops. They weren't talking about that stuff. So one great thing that happened about our agencies spitting us up and spitting us out was, these podcasts now, and I'm not saying that Roll Call Room sparked that, but a lot of podcasts are now out there where somebody that's struggling or somebody that is quote unquote getting picked on in their agency, they can go on Spotify and they can listen to these things. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted you on the show, which is check Marlon out and reach out to him on the gram, shoot him questions. And, don't ever go into an II interview blind, and don't ever go in there thinking that you're going to make a friend in there. Because the moment they turn around and they go, hey, listen, we're all cops, man. We all wear the same uniform. You know what that means?
You're about to get it.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that, Nick. Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm glad that we connected. I honestly do feel that there will never be enough social media platforms, right? YouTube and podcasts being one of those platforms to get our word out. There won't be. And I love the fact that we all have our own styles and our own content and our own niche. I love Dom Izzo, and I love Copville Mike and them, calling out this the TikTok cops. I think that's great. Counterculture is great. Tyler over at Anti-Hero, and the list goes on and on and on. This is just so good for everyone to know that, hey, you know what, you can just pop on, and if you want to listen to something, that's relevant to what you're going through, then, go for it. Now, the thing that I did is, of course, we're a little competitive, and I wanted to stand out. I wanted to bring a different function into these social media platforms, and that was IA, because I started realizing. So 2.5 years ago, when I started this, I was thinking, you know what? No one's talking about IA, man. So I just started DMing a whole bunch of hosts of podcasts saying, hey, man, I'm a 24-year veteran from LAPD. I worked IA, and it started off as the Internal Affairs State Police podcast, which was great, right? Pretty bold. But you know what? What I've learned from teaching and instructing, clarity wins. You know this, Mark. You have to be clear with your message. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to go for it. And it grew so much that I had to brand myself. So one of my guests was waiting for her episode to drop. And she calls me up. She goes, hey, you know what? My sister told me and called me and said, hey, when is that IA guy going to drop your episode? And I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm jumping all over that one. And and she goes, yeah. So I made myself the IA guy. I don't want it to be serious. I didn't want it to be so formal. I my personality is one that can, draw many people in where, hey, man, look, if you fucked up and you did something wrong, we'll deal with it, But if you didn't screw up and the department's after you, I got something for you, And so I wanted to share all that, and blessed to know that, a year and a half later, that's just a testament that, over 1 million views is because people really needed to watch and listen to all that. Case in point, the case that I've been talking about, this young officer, he found me on DMs. He was at home, stressed out. 8-year officer, had a dishonesty allegation, lost. He was a canine officer. The day that he had to leave the department, they had to take his dog away from him as he's watching his dog, leaving him, right? And sees me on Instagram, and actually it was a sergeant of his says, hey, you got to check out this guy on Instagram. And so he did. He DMs me, says, hey, sir, you know what? I really would like to talk to you about my case. I said, sure. We talked. I said, hey, man, just send me over your IA. Let me take a look at it. And I took a look at it. And that's when I said, you know,
gotta help this guy out.
It's got some holes, man. This thing doesn't kind of make sense to me. And so he goes, well, do you mind if I, connect you with my lawyer? And I said, sure, and so his attorney gives me a call. She decides to tell me, hey, send me your CV and your bio. What do you think about the case? I go, well, it's got more holes than Swiss cheese. I can tell you that. And she said, okay, cool. So she gets a hold of her union over here. They call it LDF, Legal Defense Fund. And one of them, one of the biggest one is PORAC. Don't ask me what that means, but it's the California Association of like thousands of agencies here in the state of California. She goes, send me your CV and bio so I can get you approved to do the console expert and do your thing. Sure. And then she says, okay, send me your fee schedule. Sure. And then next thing you know, she goes, you know what? You've been approved for 10 hours. Because normally I charge minimum 10 hours without body worn video. If it's body worn video, I got a lot of work to do. And here's the reason why. And I get it. Attorneys, and you know this, don't really have the time to actually listen, right? Listen to every single audio interview and then look and compare that to the paraphrase statements of the investigation that was turned in and adjudicated by command staff, by the chief. And so you're listening, you're going, oh, time out, dude. Hold on a second. There's a lot of shit here that wasn't written down that the chief didn't know about, right? And so what ends up happening is that it starts painting a picture of bias. It starts painting a picture of, misrepresentation, if you will. You're kind of guiding the adjudicator to look at it a certain way. And so, and I get it. Attorneys are so busy that they don't actually have the time to do that. But hold on a second. Right. They're not the only ones that we should hold accountable. Guess who else we should hold accountable? The fucking IA investigator.
Yep.
One. And guess who else is held accountable? Your next level review. Even the chief should be held accountable. You know what? Clear your calendar, right? And for the next 2 hours, well, shit, there's like 5 audio interviews. Okay, roger that. Not a problem. Hey, LT, commander, captain, stop what you're doing. We're all going to listen to every single audio interview, and we're going to compare that to what was turned in by the IO. Okay? That's what we need to do. But hey, you hired me to do that, and guess what? I find holes. I find bias. I find, real horrible practices. I find that the IO decides to be the adjudicator. Well, you got a heading of findings. Well, hold on a second. Who are you to find this? So wait a minute. You determine the outcome? Yeah, I frame the allegations. I'm the IO. I'm the investigator. I frame the allegations and I turned it in and say they were sustained. Oh, wait a minute. But hold on a second. Your job is to be an investigator. I didn't know that you're wearing 2 hats. Are you the adjudicator and the investigator? That's kind of biased. I didn't ask you to do that. But hold on a second. If I'm an investigator with Mark and Nick and we're doing a serial of robberies, right? We're investigating us 3. Oh, why don't we just walk into the DA's office and just let them know, hey, DA, yeah, they're guilty. Here's the investigation. Just go ahead and find them guilty. It's the same thing. And so what's missing and what's lacking is this integrity. It's this process by which you need to be, one, transparent, but you need to know your role. And knowing your role comes with accountability. Act like you know the role. And so with this kid, I was able to, I think I told you already, right? There was one allegation of dishonesty. The other one was, it was kind of like an unbecoming conduct. And basically, I think it was about 12 pages where I tore this thing up. And when I say I tore it up, I mean in a very professional way to say that, you know what, this should have never have happened. This should have never occurred. And the reason why is because we go from one incident, how this timelines are super important. We started here and we ended up over here. And then when he goes into his compelled interview, when he gets served, that's when you say, congratulations, now you have a dishonesty allegation. You know what? It doesn't work that way. That's not the way it should work, at least not from my experience. And so anyways, that all happened because, but the most important part about all this is that he said, you know what, Marlon, if it wasn't for your podcast, if it wasn't for your guest that came in, I feel like I'm not alone. You know, and I try to tell him that, you know what, it happens a lot. Yeah. And so that, to me, you know what, that self-satisfaction, if you will, is what matters the most to me, is to know that I helped someone out and that the department got it wrong. And it's okay to get it wrong. I've had guests come in to tell me, yeah, you know what, let's hold the department accountable, but let's not, you know, throw darts and vent, you know, and have an axe to grind. Let's just kind of talk about it.
Yeah. But that's hard to do, though, you know, because it's so personal.
Yeah.
Or it tends to become so personal. So I have two questions.
Yes.
In your job as an internal affairs investigator, was your mindset going in to clear the officer of the allegation?
I'm sorry, what was the question? You came in kind of broken.
I'm sorry. In your role as an internal affairs investigator, whenever you got a case, and it doesn't matter which one it is, was the mindset to prove the allegation, or was the mindset to, no, let's do everything in our power to clear this officer?
You know, very, very good question. It's another way of saying, you think the job of an IA investigator should protect cops? You know, it's a very, very good question. I'm going to say, no, it's not. It's to protect the integrity of the process. Meaning, the first thing you're asking me personally, the first thing I look at, well, my role was a little different because my sole job was, I already had the completed investigation, but I've investigated as well. I think, yeah, you know what? Super good question, because if it was Mark and Nick, I'm like, come on, man, no fucking way. They didn't do this. They didn't fucking do this. Whatever, right? Or if they didn't like Mark and Nick, oh, for sure.
Fuck those guys.
We got them. We got them. That name tag, here it is. We got them. We got them on the name tag, you know? And so what you should do is, first thing and foremost, the first thing you should do as an investigator when you get the case is to make sure that when you read that face sheet, it's got some really, well, some of them are real. They say less is better. I don't know. Right. I don't know if I'm okay with less is better when it comes to an intake, meaning you walked in the front desk and made a complaint against an officer, right? I would go out of my way to ensure that whoever the complainant is, and lock him in on a statement. That's the first thing I would do, regardless if I like Mark or Nick, or if I didn't like Mark or Nick.
What are you saying? Impartiality is what you're trying to say there.
It sounds so simple.
I know, and that's what I'm saying is that, you know, it's. I think being a police officer is the greatest job in the world. I loved my job until I didn't, which was right there. What are you playing there, Nick? Good. Oh, you're not sorry. That's the beauty of the show. But you know, when you're under the spotlight like that, you know, and that's where you have to really, as the person being investigated, you need to trust the process.
Yes.
And hope that you have the person in there that's not trying to prove the narrative. So what's the next step as an IA investigator in your 5 years of doing that? Has there been a time where you've go ahead, go.
What I would say, Mark, is the mantra that I always use is no stone goes unturned, whether I like it or not.
You're being thorough as a professional, and that's where me as the subject of the investigation has to rely on that.
Correct. Every single stone needs to be turned. 100%. I don't care if it's a name tag violation or if it's, you know, an unbecoming conduct where you were at a bar acting a fool and everybody, you know, was videoing you. 50 people were filming you, and it's all over TikTok and all social media. I'm going to get a hold of all 50 of them, you know, and that's when no stone goes unturned is key. Now, here's another thing that people use in culture is that they think that the job of an IA investigator is to be a fact finder. Well, if we're kind of peeling the onions, you know, and we're splitting hairs, your job really isn't to go and find facts. What your job really is to gather as much evidence as you can for the adjudicator to find those facts.
Okay.
That's what your job really, truly is. You're an evidence gatherer, and you need to go out of your way to gather as much evidence as you can to disprove or prove. Now, when I turn it in, right? When I turn it in, no stone goes unturned. If the next level review says, hey, Marlon, you know what do you think? I'll give you my opinion. But my opinion doesn't matter. I would never memorialize my opinion or have a heading saying, yeah, Mark and Nick are sustain, even for the most chicken shit minor violation. That's just not me, because that's not my job. But if you're going to ask me, I'll tell you, this witness wasn't so credible, and here are the reasons why. But yeah, gather as much evidence and just make sure that your mantra or who you are, and not just only as an IA investigator, this is as an officer, just turn every single stone, man. No stone goes unturned.
You had mentioned earlier in our interview about, and could have been your young guy there, clean record, high ratings on their yearly evals or bi-yearly evals, and suddenly, this guy is just Al Capone. Is that where you want to look a little more at the person hinging the allegation? And I'm just going to summarize this before you answer. Have you ever ran into where the captain or the chief, because I came from a very small agency, was not being truthful, lodging the complaint against the officer? Go ahead.
It gets personal. That's what I will say. Through the levels of review, not all the time, but sometimes it gets personal. In other words, we forget about the process and we just say, like, fuck that, Mark, just sustain this allegation. That's where I had a guest come in who retired as a captain in LAPD, and there was this, supposedly called Metro F5 scandal, failed interview car scandal. And basically, he did the right thing. He said, clear my calendar. I'm going to listen to every audio and read all the transcripts, and pretty much said, this is unfounded. All these allegations. And it's huge. It came out on the LA Times. It's supposed to be a scandal. There's a lot of pressure. It's a newsworthy event. And basically, he turns, he goes to his commander and says, hey, you know what? Hey, boss. These allegations are unfounded. And his reply was, well, you know what? Something along the lines, he says, well, you know what? Don't be known as the captain that's always nice to cops. You might want to revisit that. That's there for the cops. That supports the cops. You might want to revisit that. And then, of course, he said, well, you know what? If I'm going to leave this career and be known that I took care of my cops and I'm nice to the cops and I'm fair, shit, I'll take that any day. And so my point is that it happens. The shittiest part about, and again, this is a big machine, right? LAPD. When you start talking about small to medium to small size agencies, stand by, man. It gets worse. It gets worse, because you and I can agree that once you get an IA, dude, everybody knows, including the janitor. The janitor even knows about your IA. And so now, when everybody knows about the IA, there's a little bit of pressure, man, and sometimes, like I said, it gets personal. But what gets to me and what stands out the most, which is one of many reasons to have an IA type of podcast, is, hold on a second. We are the thin blue line. We're one big happy family. On Thanksgiving, guess what? It's Wednesday. You're going to get off early, because you're a great worker, Mark. Nick, take off, bro. Oh, and by the way, if you work on Thanksgiving, don't forget to bring your favorite dish. I'll get the turkey. We're just, and you know what? Now it's Christmas. I'm going to wear the Christmas, the Santa hat. I'm going to work your shift. We're the happiest people. We take care of one another. But hold on a second. You got an IA. Now I can't talk to you.
You're outside.
You are disassociated with me whatsoever. And it just makes me feel like we are the biggest hypocrites of all careers.
We eat our own, man. We eat our own. That's one profession. We eat our own. Like, there's blood in the water. It is like sharks. It's the worst. And if
I had one guest come in, and I didn't think about this, but we're the only profession that has to justify when we do something wrong. The only.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other profession.
Yep.
Where we have to tell the public, let alone, in the inside, but to tell the public that, hey, what I did was right, and here are the reasons why. Only agency. I mean, only profession.
Yeah. Well, Marlon, I think we're going to have you on again. I think we covered a lot. We need multiple episodes to really.
There's so much to this onion.
So much.
Yeah.
Venom. Like, it is
invite me back if you have what I like to do also is break down a lot of cases that involve the IA lens. For example, there was I think it was in Connecticut. The attorney general has cleared this officer from that man with a knife that was suffering from mental episode. And I just did a quick little reel. Okay, well, let's talk about the IA process now. Like, what's going to happen? What are we going to do? What allegations do we frame? How do we do that? Because I think that's so important for people to know. If you have anything like that, get a hold of me, dude. And you know what? I got to return the favor and have you guys come on the podcast.
Oh, yes.
Have a talk, bro.
You name it.
Yes.
I went ahead and I put Marlon's website on there, so check that out. And Marlon, shout out your Gram handle.
Yeah, it's going to be YouTube, the IA guy, and then the Gram is going to be Gram is going to be IA Guy Podcast.
Okay. All right, folks. We will catch you on the next one. Mark, any words of wisdom?
No, because if I get started, we're going to be on here for another 2 hours. So it's absolutely a pleasure meeting you, Marlon. I was, looking so forward to this interview. We absolutely have to do some more work together.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And we'll be visiting you soon. We'll talk about it offline.
All right.
Awesome.
All right, folks. Thanks so much. And don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube and fuck Spotify. All right. Bye.